Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for coming tonight. Tonight, I'm so excited. Well, first off, if you don't know me, I'm Kathy Jewell, and I was raised by parents who believed in natural alternatives before the doctor. So we had every medicinal plant known to man, I think, in our yard. And that just stuck with me. And, about 8 years ago, I kind of came back to that, got on my health journey. And, you know, when I saw Zinzino, it just aligned with everything that I believe in. And I'm so passionate about sharing it with all of you and anybody who will listen. Um, and tonight, I'm really honored. I have two guests on here tonight to share with you guys. I have Dr. Michael Lewis and Mr. Stuart Tomc, who between the two of them have decades of experience in this arena and with omega-3 especially. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first guest, who is Dr. Michael Lewis. Let's see if I can get the alphabet right. MD, MPH, MBA, FAC, PM, FACN. He's a physician, a researcher, an author, a retired Army colonel. He has over 3 decades of experience in medicine and omega-3s, really. You may have seen some of his videos on YouTube that I've shared with y'all. Um, he's a proven leader and expert in the treatment and management of concussions and brain injuries. After retiring from the Army, he founded the nonprofit called Brain Health Education and Research Institute, where he continues to help our military who have brain injuries, you know, need to recover from that. He's regularly featured in the media, radio, podcast, TV, scientific conferences. He's the author of When Brains Collide, which is like what every athlete and parent should know about brain and head injuries. And like my daughter's had several concussions. You can buy this book on Amazon. Really good. He goes really deep into how our brain works. He's a graduate of I had to write this down. Hold on. He's a graduate of the U.S. Military Academy at West Point and Tulane University School of Medicine. He's board certified, a fellow of American College of Preventive Medicine and American College of Nutrition. He's completed his post-grad work and training at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, Johns Hopkins University, Walter Reed Army Institute of Research. I'm thrilled. I am absolutely thrilled to be building my business with Dr. Lewis and to have him on here tonight. He's on the East Coast. He stayed up just for me and you guys. And so I welcome you to the call, Dr. Lewis, and thank you so much for sharing your passion with us. And take it away.
Kathy, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And I will stay up late for you anytime. So,
Promises, promises.
well, if we I set out 20 years ago. I said I'm going to change the world, and I thought that the Army was going to be that team, and they let me down. And I said I got enough time to retire, and I did. And I've been looking for the team to help me change the world. And then I'll introduce my good friend Stuart Tomc here in a little bit. But he reached out to me and said last year and said, I think I found your team. And so we've been on this building spree ever since. And I've re energized and setting out to change the world. So let me tell you how. I'm going to share some slides. And as soon as I can find the button there, and let's see, that should pop up. There we go. There's a shameless plug for my book, When Brains Collide, over on the left-hand side there. You can get it on Amazon. I think $20 well spent. But it's really it's a little bit autobiography, a little bit about, science, but my audience is really soccer moms. And so it's, I think, a fairly easy read. I didn't write it as a textbook for doctors. I wrote it for soccer moms who really want to make a difference. I say I'd rather be published in People magazine than the New England Journal of Medicine because way more people will read it and understand it. So when I did retire, I did start the Brain Health Education Research Institute, where I continue my work helping military veterans. We've expanded into first responders and starting to expand into sports concussions as well. So, with that, let's get off of me and let's jump into what we really want to talk about is that we all want to feel good. We all want to be fit. We all want to be healthy, yet at the same time, all these health related problems, these chronic diseases continue to increase year after year, decade after decade. And they just don't seem to be slowing down. And the question we should be asking ourselves is why? And we don't ask just why once. You'll never get to the root of the problem if you only ask why once. They say you have to ask why like 7 times before you really get to the root of the problem, and that's where you need to make a difference. So we're going to ask why a lot, and we'll dig layer after layer down here. We may not go 7 layers down, but we'll go a few layers down into it. We used to eat food from Mother Nature. We were an agrarian, not even society, just mankind was agrarian, right, for hundreds of thousands of years. And when we lived off the land, we were eating food that was full of vitamins, minerals, and nutrients and fibers and healthy fats and a balance of the good and not so good fats of omega 6 and omega 3. And so we'll really focus on the omega fats tonight for the most part. We'll expand beyond that a little bit. But today we eat man-made food. If you think about it, right? We started to move into the cities, particularly after World War II, and you're living in New York City or Washington or Los Angeles or whatever, you're not eating from the land, right? You go to the grocery store. And so these man-made foods, which have continued to snowball more and more, are low in key nutrients, high in sugar. They're full of empty calories. I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But also, like I said, we're going to focus on this imbalance between omega 6 and omega 3 type of fats in our food supply. The history of that omega 6 and omega 3 balance is many ways the history of mankind. And that, prior to the Industrial Revolution, we were living, really close to the land and off the land. That omega 6 to 3 ratio, which we'll talk about why that's important, but that ratio was 50-50. It was 1 to 1. And then we started to grind, mill the food and things like that and process it a little bit. Processed food is not something that just happened last year. It's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. But that omega 6 to 3 ratio started to creep up, but it didn't really explode until the late 1960s. Think about what happened in the late 1960s. Well, the greatest generation. We got through World War II. We conquered Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. And when the men and women that served overseas, they didn't all go back to the farm. They moved to the cities and the suburbs. And now, you think about just a few years, a few decades after the Wright brothers flew an airplane for the first time, we put a man on the moon in 1968. If you can just imagine that with the computing power of 1968. But we also conquered polio and we eliminated smallpox, put the man on the moon. I mean, there was nothing we couldn't do. But yet, how do we have starving children in Appalachia still? And so, really, the government looked at it and said, like, how do we grow calorically dense, easy to grow, stable food and do it at corporate levels? And that was the advent of the Farm Bill. And when we started to grow soybean. And, we talk about a lot of these things, and most people say, well, corn is the really big problem. No, actually, it's not. It's the amount of soybean between 1970 and the end of the century in 30 years. the amount of soybean oil consumed in the United States went up 16 fold and probably close to 18 or 20 fold by now. And that really had a major, major impact on our omega 6 to a 3 balance. So we got to around 25 to 1 and maybe even as much as 40 to 1, and different places of the world have different levels. India, for example, the average omega 6 to 3 ratio is 44 to 1, one of the worst in the world. And so this is an ongoing problem, and yet we're not doing anything about it. Experts have been sounding the alarm on this. This is from a white paper that was sent to the White House, HHS, and DoD back in March from Artemis Simopoulos. She's an endocrinologist originally from Greece, and she's the one that really coined the term Mediterranean diet because she thought, 30 years ago, she's seeing what's happening to our food supply and this dangerous imbalance between omega 6s and omega 3s. And she thought, why aren't we eating like what I grew up in Greece? And that was, the Mediterranean style diet. And her research showed even 25, 30 years ago, a major imbalance that contributes to obesity, cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative conditions, and compromised immune function. And so um, she published 25, 30 years ago that when she was looking at the omega 6 to 3 ratio, she showed that it was associated with a 70% greater risk of dying. That's all cause mortality. It's cardiovascular mortality. All, with 70% greater risk of dying when you have a ratio that's a little bit out of control. Do you know what yeah, I'm talking about 25, even 40, 45 to 1 ratio. When she published this work 25 years ago, she was only looking at 4 to 1. And yet in the US, we're kind of looking at an average of 25 to 1 now. She was only talking about 4 to 1. 4 to 1 or worse or higher, a 70% greater risk of dying. And, we've been trying to raise this alarm for a number of years. And a global summit on nutrition, health, and human behavior in Belgium in 2011. Brain and heart disorders resulting from omega 3 deficiencies are the greatest challenges to the future of humanity. Associated costs are bankrupting our healthcare systems and threatening wider economic instability worldwide. You probably never heard about that. You may not even know anything about omega 6 and omega 3. So, but even the director of any of the National Institute of Health, NIH, at the time said no nutrient is more important for decreasing cardiovascular death and more lacking than omega 3s. We're talking 2011, right? Well, we're talking, I mentioned like, the fact that we're not living off the land, we're getting empty calories, we're basically starving ourselves to death while getting fatter and fatter and fatter. So look at this document that was submitted to the Senate. The alarming fact is food's now being raised on millions of acres that no longer contain enough minerals because of the soil, no matter how much we eat. That 99% of the American people are deficient in micronutrients, even as we keep getting fatter and fatter and fatter. And I mentioned 2011. Any guesses when this was published? 1936. We're not getting any better. I think we've gotten a little bit worse since that's even before World War II. It just keeps getting worse. And then this one blew me away that it was that old when I came across that. So let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's peel the onion a little bit more. What are the consequences of omega 6 fats and omega 3 fats and that imbalance? We're talking about reduced brain function. We're talking about reduced heart function. We're talking about more joint and muscle pain. And if we dig a little bit deeper, peel the onion a little bit more, what about at the cellular level? Well, what we're looking at is reduced function of cells, of the cell membrane in particular. And where nutrients get in more slowly and waste products come out more slowly, as opposed to when we have a balance of omega-6 to omega-3s where nutrients get in more easily and out more easily because of the soft, flexible membrane. So let me go off of this slide for a half a second and talk. Why is that? Again, we ask why again. And so omega-6 molecules, you think back to high school chemistry and remember those stick and ball and stick models of chemistry of chemicals and such. Well, if you had one of those of the omega-6 molecule, it's very stiff. And that has its pluses and its minuses. That stiffness allows it to be very stable. And, but on the bad side, it makes your cell membrane stiff as well. And so that, again, the nutrients get in more slowly and the bad stuff gets out more slowly. Whereas the omega-3 molecule, if we had one of those models, it's really flexible. And that's got pluses and minuses. The pluses of it, of course, are that flexibility makes for a soft, flexible cell membrane, because we're talking about every cell in our body. But on the negative side, it also means that it can spoil very easily. That flexibility makes it vulnerable. What do I mean? You could take a box of crackers, you put it out in the sun for 3 days. It might be stale, but you can still eat the crackers. But if you put a piece of salmon or fish out in the sun for an hour, you might not want to eat it, right? Because it spoils. That's because the omega-3s are spoiled, get spoiled very easily. And we have to have ways to stabilize it. When I do a lot of work on brain health and concussions, on the long-term effects of brain injuries. You get blown up in Iraq, 10, 15 years ago, or Afghanistan. And those are the guys and women that I'm seeing now as they get a little bit older, right? We think of women going through menopause. Well, men have kind of the same issues. Their hormones start to get a little bit wonky going into their 40s. But men and women, we're looking at headaches, anxiety, brain fog, memory problems, concentration issues, trouble sleeping, exhausted all the time, irritable, emotional, depressed, decreased libido. What did I just describe there? I just described aging. And that's exactly the point. Is while I'm looking at these from a concussion or traumatic brain injury side, these are the exact same things that happen with aging. The overlap is incredible. And so when you combine the two, then it gets even worse. So I started when I first got into this. I was doing infectious disease work in Southeast Asia, and then came back. They said, "Teach. We want you to teach medical students at the military medical school in Bethesda, Maryland." And I'm like, well, I don't know anything about teaching. They're like, "We're the Army. We're not giving you a choice." So now I'm around. There's veterans, Afghanistan, Iraq. You see the visible wounds, the missing limbs, and so on. But I started thinking about the invisible wounds, and I started thinking about, um, is there something that we could do for, what's the brain made of, and maybe, we could do something with that. And we looked at, when I looked at it, we're talking about a 50-50 ratio is what we should be, right? 1 to 1, omega-6 to omega-3. And yet, the first big study that I did, we looked at a couple thousand active duty military and we were at 17%. We weren't even on this scale. And that's how bad it is. We were beyond take urgent remedial action. And the study that I had put together with a colleague at the NIH was looking at suicide. Talk about a hard endpoint, right? And what we found was that there was a 62% increased risk of suicide in active duty military with low omega-3 status. And when I went back and looked at the ratio and we had a ratio of 26 to 1. It's gotten worse. This is back in 2010. But think about that. The risk of suicide is 62% greater with low omega-3 status. And, I tried to raise this up to the Pentagon and they blew me off. And I tried it again. They blew me off. and then it gets published, and on the front page of every newspaper in the country, I get called to the Pentagon to brief the four-star. And I told the four-star, I said, you cannot make people take fish oil. You can't mandate it. He goes, why not? And they're like, it'll fall apart. Trust me. But I said, you know what you can do? You can mandate that people be tested. And if you know what your results are, soldiers will be competitive. And then, now you got education, you make it available, but you make mandatory testing. And that message got lost. And it's really a shame because it's a modifiable risk factor if you know you have a problem. Most people don't even know they have a problem because you go to your doctor and you might get a cholesterol panel, but no doctor's out there checking omega-3 and omega-6 levels. And yet it's a modifiable risk factor we can change for pennies a day. And that's what I think is the real travesty that the military has completely blown me off, continues to blow me off on this. And yet the evidence is overwhelming. Along comes Zinzino. About the time I published that study, or just a little bit after that, Zinzino was a company that was about 8 or 9 years old at the time. They bought this other Norwegian company that had this test, and it's a test that you prick your finger at your kitchen table, drip, drip, put it in an envelope, register it online, send it off, and 2 weeks later you get an email that says, "Hey, check your results," and boom, you get hit in the face with this big red box saying you are unbalanced. Your omega-3 index is insufficient. In this case, 33 to 1 imbalance, 1.7 percent insufficient. Your omega-3 index should be 8% or greater. Your 6 to 3 balance should be 3 to 1 or better. So I advocated for testing over a decade ago, and the Army refused to even look at it and consider it. But here comes Zinzino. And then Stuart, who I'll introduce you to, said, "Hey, last year we've been good friends for about 20 years." He goes, "You got to take a look at this company. Not only do they have a test, but they know they have the response to the test. They know that they can get you back into balance in 120 days where you have normal brain function, normal heart function, and joints and muscles work. It's like I say omega-3s are like oil for the Tin Man. And so we know that we can get you back in balance because the other half of it is this scientist, Ola Edie in Norway. When Zinzino bought his company, they bought it for this, the balance oil. He figured out a way to combine fish oil, the best of fish oil and the best of olive oil. But it's not the same as take a swig of fish oil, take a swig of olive oil, jump up and down and try to mix it in your stomach. No, this is at the molecular level. And that's where the game changer is with omega-3s. When omega-3s first come, and it all originates in algae, when it comes from algae, you got an omega-3 molecules and you got it wrapped in a protective layer of something called polyphenols. And Ola Edie figured out, and by the way, that gets all destroyed when we manufacture the fish oil because we got to get the mercury and the plastics and the heavy metals right. We don't want that. So it's like we pasteurize and homogenize milk and we destroy the goodness of milk. The best food in the world is a mother's milk. Second best food, I would argue, is good fish oil. But we destroy the milk, so we have to put vitamin A and D and calcium back into it to even make it worth anything. And yet it's never as good as a mother's milk. Same thing with fish oil. We have to kind of destroy it. It's like pasteurizing, homogenizing. We have to kind of destroy it to get the metal, the heavy metals out so that we're not poisoning people with that. But we destroy that protective layer that helps the omega-3s. And so Ola Edie figured out, well, let's take olive oil and reintroduce it at the molecular level. And that's what they do is they wraps around the omega-3 so it protects it, makes it incredibly shelf stable, but not just on the shelf. but all the way through the digestive process, all the way into the cell and the cell membrane because of that stability that the polyphenols provide to the omega-3s. So it's so much more than just fish oil. It's really a Mediterranean diet in a bottle. And we know that 95% of people taking Zinzino balance oil come back into balance after 120 days. In fact, we are so sure of that when you get on a subscription to get the oil, we send you a test at the beginning so you can see how bad you are. And we'll send you a test after 4 months to prove to you. And by the way, we'll send it to you for free to prove to you that we can bring you back into balance. And 95% of people come back into balance. You get that next email that says, hey, check your results. Boom, you get this beautiful green box. You're in balance. Your omega-3 index is optimal. Those are the two big things that I look at that you want to see. Nice green boxes for both of those. So we're so sure that we send you a test for free after 4 months so you can prove it to yourself. But I don't stop there. I'm still actively seeing patients. I see concussion patients and men's health patients, a couple days a week. I've got my nonprofit. We deal with veterans all around the country. I literally was texting with a patient in the Middle East just this afternoon or this evening, actually. So I have literally patients from all around the world. And I put them all on the balance oil. That's the foundation number one over here. But number two, the xenobiotic. It's this tub here in the center. It's a blend of 8 different fibers that help feed the gut because the gut is the center of the universe. That gut brain connection. I've got a gut feeling about this. All these things we've known for years and years. You are what you eat. I mean, all these sayings, you ever wonder where they come from and what they really mean? Well, it's because the gut is so important. We have more than 1 trillion cells in our gut, and if we're feeding it junk, we're going to get junk out of our gut, literally, to the brain and so on. But if we feed it the right stuff, we feed the fermentation tank of the gut, we're going to get good bacteria growing in our gut. And that has a major effect on brain health, immune health. 80% of our immune system is in our gut, and 90% of the serotonin in our body is in our gut. So we got to feed it the right stuff. So it's a prebiotic. It's the food to help feed the microbiome in our gut. It's not probiotic, it's prebiotic because it's feeding the good stuff to the good bacteria. And then number three, the Extend. It's not even a multivitamin, it's a multi-immune system dietary supplement. It's a multivitamin with more stuff in it to help support our energy throughout the day, but also really beta glucans and other things to help support our immune system. And the last one on there is becoming a really big favorite. It's a all natural nootropic, meaning it's a something for the mind, for the brain, and it's based on saffron. Everybody knows saffron from the kitchen. I had no idea that saffron was so well studied as a nootropic. It blew me away at how much scientific literature there is about saffron and how important it is for the not just the brain but also for the gut. And so that's the combination we call the health protocol or the health protocol premium. And I put every patient on it. My patient in the Middle East tonight, he's basically going to put his whole family on. He's going to order like 4 health protocols to put his entire family on it because he knows the value of nutrition. And so, speaking of the gut, just last week, Zinzino came out with a new test. They've been working on this in-house. They didn't buy it, they built it in-house, took 8 years of testing and development, and it's a gut health test. And it's not send a stool sample in to see what's there. That tells you who's there. That tells you what's going on. That a snapshot of what's in your gut or coming out of your gut. This is another finger stick test where you drip blood, mail it off, and what it measures is these metabolites in your blood that tell you how healthy your gut is. It's telling you how effective what is in your gut, the functional output. So this is a absolute, there's nothing else like it. There's no company, there's no test, nothing like this. This is absolutely unique. And I think it's going to be literally something that's going to help change the world. So, I look at it as I'm trying to shape the future of nutrition. And Zinzino came along, and basically they had the same mission statement as my personal mission statement. I'm out to change the world. And I was looking for that team, and I thought the Army was that team, and they're not, for all the reasons I kind of mentioned and a thousand more. But Zinzino comes along and they are the team. And so that got me connected with, not with Stuart, Stuart introduced me to it, but that's connected me with leaders all around the world to help grow a business. I started out as like, all right, with Zinzino products, and I'm seeing patients. First of all, I had to prove it on myself. Check that box. Then I was like, well, if it's so good for me, why am I not sharing it with my patients or my family, my friends? So I started to do that, and I saw the positive results I was getting there. Check that box. And then I thought, wait a minute, simple numbers. If I'm helping 20 people one on one by seeing them in clinic and so on, that's going to take me a long time to change the world one at a time. So if I've helped 20 people, okay, great. How long is it going to help me? How long is it going to take me to change the world? What if I could teach 20 people what I know and help 20 people do what I'm doing? And now if 20 people were helping 20 people, now all of a sudden that's 400 people. And you get the idea of duplication there. And so that's how we can change the world. And we can make money at it at the same time. So number one is, how do we help people and change the world? And number two is, why not make some money on it, while we're doing it? And the guy that really can explain that a lot better than I can, and why this company Zinzino is looking to inspire change in life, is my buddy Stuart Tomc. He's been in the nutritional industry for over 30 years now. He's the guy that brought oil of oregano to market. And then he helped Nordic Naturals become the largest fish oil company in the world. And then he became the vice president of human nutrition at a CBD company called CV Sciences. They had no products. He brought product to market. They became the largest retailer of CBD products in the country. And then he went back to Nordic Naturals as the global brand ambassador. And when he saw Zinzino, he said, I'm all in. This is the future. And I'm going to let Stuart tell you about why he sees this as the future. So, Stuart, why don't you take over from here?
Thank you, Dr. Lewis and Kathy. I'm so excited for you, Kathy, to build your business with a leader like Dr. Lewis. Isn't this just extraordinary? I mean, the highlight of my career of being in the nutrition space was meeting Dr. Lewis, and I will follow him absolutely anywhere. And this opportunity from Zinzino is so unique that we have been able to attract some of the top omega-3 and nutrition specialists around the world. But here's the best part. You don't need to be a Dr. Lewis at all. All you need to do is to be an excited layperson like myself and Kathy and just be willing to share it with other people. So is the timing right? Okay, well, Ray Dalio, the great hedge fund manager, says if you're going to invest your money, your time, and your energy, you need a system for evaluating it, not just hope and emotions. So if we ask you to join Dr. Lewis's public health army, like we're part of, we're going to be asking you to invest some of your time and your money and your energy. And what's the formula to decide whether or not that makes sense? Well, here the 4-point plan that he lays out. Does it solve a real problem? Is the timing right? And is the company solid? So the biggest business opportunities solve problems that no one else is solving. I do not have to tell this group at all what Amazon, Airbnb, Uber, and Netflix did. We all know it. We watched it. Zinzino is also solving a massive existing problem. What's that problem? 1 billion people take supplements and believe they're working. How many people know that they're working? For sure. Almost nobody. Now, I was quite embarrassed as the face of Nordic Naturals that I took this at-home blood spot test and failed miserably. I was hit right in the head with a big red box. So it proved that what I was doing wasn't working. Dr. Lewis failed too, and he's one of the world experts on this. So it just shows you that what's out on the street, what's commercially available, is not effective. And the media right now, love them or dislike them, this information now you can't unsee. Look at the middle here. An imbalance of two healthy fats affects your early death risk, study finds. That's all-cause mortality. The one to the left, a low omega-3 index is just a strong predictor of early death as smoking. If you know your LDL, your HDL, and your triglycerides and your blood pressure, why wouldn't you want to know the most important number for health and longevity that you don't know? National Geographic said the biggest threat to the future of humanity is this inflammation that's connected to what they said in Bruges, Belgium in 2011. So we have tests to help you identify, and more importantly, we have products to help get you back into balance. Now let's switch gears and look at the business opportunity here. We are pre-trend. What does that mean? Well, we all remember when these phones came out. I was a late adapter. I'm not good with technology, but it doesn't matter. As soon as everybody had one, I got one. You hit 2.5%, and that's where a trend kicks in. If you look at the middle circle here, we've tested 1.5% currently of the population in Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, Iceland. And when we add the Baltics, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, we've tested 1.5% of those countries. Enzino is the #1 direct-to-consumer home-based business in all of those countries. Now, I'm new in network marketing. I come from a big dietary supplement business. And so at first I asked the question, why would people be so interested in this in Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Denmark? Well, first of all, it's science-based and taxes are 70% there. And so what's interesting is we're just doing the same thing here. The team that Dr. Lewis is leading is the fastest growing team in the world. We're just going to do here what we've already done there, and that's the business opportunity. We've only tested 54,451 tests, a few more now. And when we test 1.5% of America, like we have in Europe, that will be 5 million tests, generating 1 billion in sales, and 50 cents of every dollar goes back to the partners in perks and in compensation. So it really makes sense. The timing is exquisite. So is the company solid? Well, the foundation is set, the model is working, the demand is rising. We're on track to have 1 million customers by the end of this year and 20 million customers by 2035. If you look at the fine print at the bottom, that's an estimated annual growth rate of 33%. You'll see in a moment, we're growing even faster than that. That is momentum. Enzino puts in writing, we will be the biggest preventive health company in the world. Can you imagine sharing that with Dr. Lewis, a fellow of the American College of Preventive Medicine and studying public health? And so what's great is, I call this public health meets private wealth. And again, because of the democratization of testing, all you have to do is share the tests. And look at, this is how Wall Street, this is the stock price, how it reflects what's going on inside of Enzino. I often say the blood spot test tells you what's going on in you, and the financial performance of the company tells you the health of the company. And you can see we've done 305 million in revenue is projected. We're going to hit beyond that, maybe 350. And we did 200 million last year. So we are on fire. And all of that income is primarily in Europe. And we're pioneering it here. So can you win here? This is the big question. This is a great idea. It's a public health thing. But can you actually win here? Well, the earning potential is remarkable with Enzino. There are two paths to residual income. Now, one is what we call the customer plan. And it's so simple. You earn by selling products to customers or patients through your online store. So you can open up pharmacists, massage therapists, doctors' offices. You don't even have to speak to those people. You can just talk to everybody in your local community. I'm going to show you some pictures of some people that are doing that. They're not selling to professionals. They're just sharing it with their friends. Now, the more customers, the higher percentage. I won't go through all of the details, but if you look at where it says monthly customer bonuses 100, 100 is simply 100 products on subscription, and many, many, many people on our team have done this. You earn a one-time bonus of $11,500. You're earning about $1,150 a month on the reordering of 100 bottles on subscription. And then you can just do the math. Then there's what we call a partner plan. But before we get there, I wanted to show you two recent pictures from our annual event for our 20th anniversary. These two women have 800 products on subscription. They're not doctors. They're not scientists. They're just lovely people that love to share things. Here's a woman that has 1,000 products on subscription. That's $7,000 a month in residual income. She's not necessarily building a giant team. And how can she get 1,000 happy, satisfied customers? This is incredible. Every one of your customers that gets what I call the test in the bottle, when they share it with their friends, 4 of their friends, they can get their products for free. And then as partners, we get the credits. It's ingenious. Then we have what's called the partner plan. And so the partner plan is where you get your online store, and you just really need to bring in 2 partners to also have their online store, and then 2 bring in their 2, and 2 bring in their 2, and everybody gets 10 products on subscription, and it just builds and builds. It's so remarkable. Now, there are multiple ways to earn. The founders of the company grew up in network marketing. He's 50, she's 47, and they built the compensation plan from the perspective of somebody in the field. So it's so rich. I just want to point out the matching mentor bonuses, where I fold Dr. Lewis's parachute and he folds mine, and I fold Kathy's parachute. I mean, I've been in publicly traded companies that were startups that were a disaster, and privately held companies where someone's living out of the checkbook. I've never seen anything as equitable as Zinzino. So in the life of a customer, no company even comes close to what Zinzino is doing. Because again, customers can share it with their friends, earn free product, and we can make money. In the life of a partner, there's no one who gets a home like they get in Zinzino. So how do you get started? It's so easy. You sort of make a binary decision. You, at this point, either want to be a customer or become a partner. It's win-win. I recommend the Health Protocol Premium. I've been taking supplements since 1988. These are the best supplements I've ever taken, and I got my supplements for free for like 20 years. Because being the Nordic Naturals guy, I would hand out big bottles of Ultimate Omega during the trade shows and bring home suitcases full of supplements. I haven't spent a nickel on supplements. And I can't wait to get my box of Zinzino. When I run out of stuff, I mean, I'm panicking. It's that good. Now, the test in a bottle, if you just want the basic, it's only $115. This is brilliant. So what we say to our prospective customers is, hey, I own my own online store. This is $180 retail. I can get it to you for $115. Wow. The oil is $70 retail, and I can give it to you for free. And then the oil is only $45 a month, and it's $9.95 in shipping and handling that you get back in rewards. And at the end of the 4th month, on the 5th order rather, they send you that second $180 test for free. We also have it in soft gels. I call it test in a bottle or capsules in a bottle. Or become a partner. To become a partner, we have what's called a basic kit and an ultimate kit. Now, both include 3 positions, but the ultimate kit includes a refund potential, which I'll tell you about in a moment. At the end of the day, the way I think we should look at it is you're buying the online business for $1,150, and you happen to get $3,000 worth of product for free. So I call it the testing and tasting kit. That's my name for it. So you get your kit and you go out and you prick as many fingers as possible, test everyone, give all the product away, and then put everybody on subscription. Why? At the end of a year, when you have 25 bottles on subscription, Zinzino sends you back a check for your entire investment. I just got this recently, $1,239.13. So they make it impossible for you to fail here in Zinzino. Now, the only expense to run the business is a monthly $79 fee to run the back office and they give you an extra bottle of oil for yourself for that $79. They also include an extra free blood spot test every 4 months so you can keep testing yourself and others. And then this GoCore app that's loaded with 1,000 hours worth of personal development. However, the second you have 4 products on subscription, even if you make yourself your own first customer, which is what I did, then you get that taken down to $9.95. So again, Zinzino is looking to make sure that you win. They also have a fast start bonus. They give you 120 days to do this. I did it in a month, had no idea what I was doing. And now there are people in the team that have done it in 6 days. They're kind of show offs. So you can make $2,875 as fast as you want. And if your people get into action, you can make even more. Now, here's the big slide. These are monthly incomes based on the subscriptions of the products. Look at the bottom box. Minimum pay based on individual product customer purchases. These income amounts do not include income from partner kits. This is true residual income. Now, I started with no experience in this industry, and I'm a crown. This is so exciting. I've never been this motivated in my life. And I can't wait for you to have the same experience. What I love about Zinzino is if you look at executive to crown, the majority of partners in Zinzino are in those income brackets, earning about $1,000 to $13,800 a month. At the higher ranks, I need to update this slide now. There are now 34 reps already at what we call Black Ambassador. That's $36,000 a month. When you reach the president level right after that, they start giving you stock in the company. Now, I bought the stock at $7 and then it went to 30. It came back down to about 15. I think it went up a little fast. But they give you the cash to buy the stock. It's not an option. It's not a taxable event. So I hope you can understand that if their vision is to have 100 million customers, to be the biggest preventive health company in the world, all of their partners that are with us are going to get to be part of that ride. So in summary, what are the next steps? Very simple. Become a Zinzino partner. Get back to Kathy and say, I'm all in. I want to join the public health army with Dr. Colonel Lewis and change the world, and we'll be happy to get you started. Schedule a follow-up with myself or Dr. Lewis at any time through Kathy. We're more than happy to go through the details. Become a Zinzino customer. Get on the protocol. Don't miss that opportunity, and ultimately connect us with others. Do you know someone who would be interested, who's a health enthusiast, that's also interested in looking for some additional income? So Kathy, at this point, I'm going to send the call back to you for closing comments. Dr. Lewis, thank you so much for all of your leadership. It's an honor to work with you, sir.
Thank you so much, Stuart. Your passion, like you and Dr. Lewis both, thank you so much for sharing what you're so passionate about. It's just been an honor to have you on here. So if you have questions, you know how to DM me. We've got a chat with all of us in there. So just reach out to me. And I'm going to end the recording now.